All right, we're going to work on worksheet 3.3 and we're going to decide if the lines are parallel. Don't be deceived by the diagrams. They are intended to not show you the answer, so we have to go by the numbers, not by the picture that you see. And we will be filling in a sentence, not doing many calculations, but filling in a sentence. So question number 1, we need to decide if the following lines are parallel with the information given. Complete the sentence to explain your answer. So in this case, first we look at the kinds of angles that we have, and we notice that those two angles are both alternate exterior angles. And then we think back in our notes, alternate exteriors should be equal. And these angles are both 115 degrees, so that's good. We answer that the lines are parallel because alternate exterior angles are congruent. Question number 5. We look here and we notice that both angles are both 35 degrees. We think that's interesting and maybe good. We trace those out and we notice that those two angles are not anything special for what we're supposed to know. But if I fill in properties of lines that should be true, I know that if I have 35 degrees right here, the supplement to that on the other side of the linear pair, I would have to have 145 degrees on the other side. And then if I look at those two angles that I have marked in red, there's my F. Those are corresponding angles, and then I think in my notes those should be congruent. And they clearly are not. 145 and 35 are not the same number. So I read the lines are not parallel because corresponding angles are not congruent. So I look at the angles, decide if they are what they should be, and if my angles are parallel, my lines are parallel or not. Looking at the back side of our worksheet, we just have a couple of questions that I want to go over because they come from your notes and they would be good questions for you to use for studying for your test. Question number 10 says, which angle pairs determine if lines are parallel? Of all the different angle pairs that we have, some lead us to parallel lines, some do not. The ones that work for parallel lines are alternate interior angles and alternate exterior angles, corresponding angles, and consecutive interior angles. Those are the angles the only angles we can use to draw conclusions if our lines are parallel. Question number 11 asks us, which angle pairs do not determine if lines are parallel? And that goes back even to chapter 1 information. If we have vertical angles, that does not make lines parallel. If we have a linear pair, that does not make lines parallel. If we have complementary angles or supplementary angles, that does not make lines parallel. And we can even go and say adjacent angles do not make lines parallel. Those are angles that are just next to each other. So again, one more time, vertical angles, those are the two that point at each other. A linear pair, those are the two that are next to each other on a straight line. Complementary angles, those are two angles that add to 90 degrees, just any two angles. Supplementary angles are any two angles that add to 180 degrees. And adjacent angles are just any two angles that have a shared side there next to each other. None of those angles make lines parallel. Using all of that information about all of those angles, we can set up and solve some equations. So if I look at question 15 again, identifying the kinds of angles that we have is helpful. Those guys are alternate exteriors. So I know that they have to be equal. So 5x plus 20 has to equal 90 degrees because of alternate exterior. Again, solving that, remember you subtract from both sides. 90 minus 20 is 70, and then divide by 5s. 70 divided by 5 is going to give you 14. Find the value of x, did that. That makes those lines parallel. The last question that we have on this page is question number 14. And again, keep tracing those angles and looking for the special angle name that we have. And if I trace that all the way, I see the C. So I know that those two angles are not going to be equal, but supplementary, because they are consecutive interior angles. So I have 3x plus 15 plus 75 equal to 180 degrees. Adding like terms, 75 and 15 is going to give me 90. So I have 3x plus 90 equals 180. And from there we start subtracting, minusing 90, and then dividing. And we get x equals 3. Because those angles were consecutive interiors, we added them to equal 180, solved the equation, got x equals 3, which will make M parallel to N. Good luck. See you in class.